How many times did they actually, her poking Caitlyn Clark in the eye? And that really had me thinking, like, damn, how many times did they actually, drop the ball and didn't call stuff against Caitlyn? Now, Caitlyn got called for a technical for hitting the back of the backboard. If somebody viciously clotheslined her, we're not getting a call for it.
The WNBA refs seem to think they're part of a comedy act with their absurd calls on Caitlyn Clark. One moment she's getting tackled without a whistle, and the next, a sneeze earns her a technical foul. It's clear they wouldn't recognize a fair call if it hit them in the face. To top it off, they've been caught pushing an agenda, and the evidence is truly embarrassing. Get ready, because this situation is about to be revealed.
They need to be investigated ASAP. We see what's happening with Caitlyn Clark. There's no reason you shouldn't be protecting your star player, because without Caitlyn Clark, there won't be no sold-out arena.
The WNBA refs truly thought they could get away with their antics from last season, believing no one would notice how they treated Caitlyn Clark like she was just another player in gym class. While other players received NBA-level superstar calls, the refs were quick to call fouls for the slightest glance at opponents. But Caitlyn? She could be tackled, tripped, or even clotheslined, and the refs would just stand there as if they were watching a Broadway show.
I don't want to see none of the calls being missed like we seen last year, bro. These referees have to get it together. Now, we know the Indiana Fever front office did everything they had to do, put the right pieces around Caitlyn Clark, make sure they make it far in the playoffs and possibly get a WNBA championship. Well, that part is done. We got a new team. We got a new coach. They got everything they need to do to take off for the 2025 season. The only thing left is these WNBA referees. This need to be talked about, just like it was supposed to be talked about at the conclusion of that season. And I'm back on a bumper, bro. I am not letting up on them damn WNBA referees because they are the biggest haters.
It seemed like the refs had a secret handbook titled How Not to Call Fouls for Caitlyn Clark. Opponents would practically be practicing their WWE finishing moves on her, while the refs merely shrugged, thinking she'd be fine. Yet, if Caitlyn so much as exhaled in the direction of another player, boom, a whistle, a technical foul, and free throws awarded. It's as if simply breathing near an opponent has turned into a flagrant foul now.
The offensive fouls are definitely surprising at times. I feel like I do get held.
She sold this flop perfectly. I gotta tip my hat to it. Had her hand on her chest. Most people who flop, they always do the little face thing. And she sold it perfectly. I gotta give it to her. Here's like a play from a different game. Watch Caitlyn's reaction.
Excuse me, they got it on Caitlyn Clark.
She wanted to really call out the...
There were games where Caitlyn endured such hard fouls that it looked like she was auditioning for a stunt double in an action movie. Arms flailing, bodies hitting the floor, and defenders treating her like a human bumper car. Meanwhile, the refs just glanced at the jumbotron, dismissing it all as merely good defense. It was astonishing how they missed the obvious calls.
The viewership on TV would not be like it is now, where everybody's watching it because it's must-watch TV. But we are seeing how she's being treated. She's being pushed around. She's being slapped around. Sometimes she's being punched around. And the fouls just keep getting harder and harder.
Let's discuss consistency, or the utter absence of it. In one game, a defender can hip-check Caitlyn into another time zone without a single call, while in the next, a random role player gets their shoelace trampled on, and the refs rush in like lifeguards at a pool, blowing their whistles. The double standard was more chaotic than a rookie trying to defend a seasoned veteran in the post. Yet the most frustrating part? The refs never took the time to explain any of it.
You have to be great as a ref. You have to be consistent. You have to. It can't be inconsistent. It can't be AAU.
No accountability, no acknowledgement, just pure gaslighting. Caitlyn would take hits harder than a quarterback in the pocket, standing up and looking for justice while the refs were already halfway down the court, pretending they didn't hear a thing. At this point, she might as well bring a body cam to games for evidence. And let's not forget the times she was called for offensive fouls for merely existing, dribbling, cutting through the lane, or even just looking at the basket. It was as if the refs woke up each morning with the goal of making Caitlyn Clark question her own reality. The inconsistencies were mind-blowing.
The referees and them not calling fouls like this one last night. Let's just check it out. There's going to be a drive down the court here, right? And we've got another clothesline from hell. This time, Marina Mabry on Caitlyn.
Of course, social media captured every moment. The refs may have thought they were clever, but the internet doesn't forget. Every missed call, every blatant foul, and every time Caitlyn got mugged on the court was documented like scenes from a crime series. The WNBA faced such backlash that even those who don't typically watch basketball were asking, wait, how is this even legal? Last season's officiating was so poor that it felt like the refs were flipping coins at halftime to decide who they'd penalize next, with Caitlyn often landing on the short end of the stick. These refs weren't just incompetent, they seemed to operate with an agenda, almost like a secret society of whistleblowers determined to make sure Caitlyn Clark never had a moment of peace on the court. Fortunately, the league is now investigating their conduct, and it's about time. Let's face it, many of these refs wouldn't even qualify to officiate a middle school game, yet here they were making calls as if they had a personal vendetta against Clark. One particularly notorious incident involved the now legendary eye poke by DJ Carrington, a moment that's destined to go down in infamy.
She's been going through the trenches this year. They've definitely been,
But you see that? You see how the hand starts out like this, and then she goes down and says, I'm poking this bitch in the eye.
Basically.
Let's see you make a three-pointer with one eye,
But again, that comes that goes back to that. If you want to be the greatest, you got to deal with the hate and the haters, and the people that are doing dirty shots and trying to take you out. That's normal.
It's what Jordan went through, right? It's what Jordan went through
for sure.
She had a
Ah, yes, the infamous eye poke, a moment so outrageous it deserves its own Hall of Fame exhibit. DJ Carrington practically shoved her entire hand into Caitlyn's face, as if she were searching for the last Pringle in the can. And what did the refs do? Absolutely nothing. Not a whistle, not a review, not even a, hey, maybe don't assault people on live television. They let it slide as if they had just witnessed the slowest, most obvious foul in history, and shrugged it off like, hey, we've seen worse. Meanwhile, Caitlyn just breathes near a defender, and the refs are already blowing their whistles like lifeguards spotting a shark. Illegal screen? Offensive foul? Breathing too hard? Looking at an opponent the wrong way? They called everything on her except for an actual travel, which is ironic considering half the league treats the rulebook like a bedtime story. They stopped reading in 6th grade. Now, the league is actually investigating this mess. You mean to tell me someone finally realized that, hey, maybe our referees shouldn't be officiating as if they have a personal vendetta against a rookie? Perhaps someone in the WNBA office actually tuned into the games and thought, this seems a bit suspicious. It's about time.
For example, what really made me start thinking about this was the DJ Carrington situation. Yesterday, I did a DJ Carrington video kind of breaking down that whole thing, technical on that. They didn't call nothing on that for her poking Caitlyn Clark in the eye, and that really had me thinking like, damn, how many times did they
The wild part is that some of these referees might not be returning next season, and honestly, that's the best news Caitlyn Clark has received since signing her first endorsement deal. If these refs get replaced, maybe, just maybe, she'll finally get a fair game where she isn't treated like she committed a crime merely for existing on the court. But let's not jump to conclusions. Knowing the WNBA, they'll likely just substitute these refs with new ones who may still harbor the same bias against Caitlyn, just under different names. Imagine if they brought in officiators from other sports. Picture a soccer ref handing Clark a red card for flopping when she's actually tackled in the paint. The current WNBA refs must have selective vision because Caitlyn was getting knocked down like an old email, and they stood by like NPCs in a video game. During one game, Chennedy Carter practically tackled her, and the refs just shrugged it off as play on. Meanwhile, if Caitlyn so much as breathes too hard on defense, it's instant whistle. Ironically, the flagrant foul committed by Carter wasn't even called during the game. No, It took a full league review after everyone went home for the refs to finally admit, oh yeah, maybe that was a foul. Seriously?
We saw the play in the third quarter where Carter kind of decked you. How do you respond to that and stay within yourself?
I feel like I'm just at the point where you accept it and don't retaliate. Like, just let them hit you, be what it is. Don't let it get inside your head and know it's coming. I think at this point, I know I'm going to take a couple hard shots a game. It is what it is, I guess. I don't know.
The refs watched Caitlyn get hit as if she owed them money and decided to clock out early. At this point, they might as well allow defenders to bring folding chairs into the paint because clearly anything goes. What's next? A ref handing out Gatorade to defenders mid-play? Caitlyn could get shoved into the third row, and these refs would probably penalize her for delay of game. It's honestly impressive how poorly they officiate. Maybe they're watching a different game or still buffering. Either way, Caitlyn's out there playing basketball while the refs seem to be playing a game of how blind can we be? And somehow, they keep winning at it.
When are the refs going to do their job? As a matter of fact, when is the WNBA going to do their job? Because there should be some suspensions, check. There should be some fines, check. And you should be setting an example for your star player. Because God forbid this young lady gets hurt.
This season, things are about to get intense for anyone thinking they can just impose on Caitlyn Clark like they did last year. Why? Because the WNBA has finally brought in an enforcer, and her name is Sophie Cunningham. You thought you could take cheap shots at Clark and stroll away whistling? Not on Sophie's watch. She's the self-appointed security guard, enforcer, and personal bodyguard all rolled into one. If you so much as glance at Caitlyn the wrong way, Sophie will have you in a headlock, whispering sweet nothings about her 50 hard fouls ready to go. Then there's Caitlyn Clark herself, who has apparently hit the gym with the determination of a WWE superstar. Whatever off-season training she did, it wasn't just about perfecting jump shots. It was about ensuring she wouldn't get tossed around like a rag doll this season. With Sophie watching her back and Caitlyn ready to assert herself, opponents better be prepared for a serious fight on the court.
All right, guys, we're starting a little TikTok weight room vlog. I'm gonna show you what we do.
Get the butt down. Good.
Okay, speed. Okay, speed.
She's not just taking hits anymore, she's delivering them. Try to bumper her now, and suddenly you're the one hitting the floor. The scouting reports initially said to attack her defense, but now they're probably reconsidering that strategy. Let's not forget the real villains of the WNBA, the refs. These officials seem to move like they have direct deposits from Caitlyn's opponents. Last season, they dished out missed calls like free samples at Costco, and this year is no different. If you even breathe in Caitlyn's direction, it's a no call, but the moment she blinks too aggressively, it's labeled an offensive foul. It's almost impressive how consistently bad they are. They'd probably miss a foul even if a player pulled out a steel chair mid-game.
WNBA refs are not consistent. A hit to the arm on one play is a foul, and a hit to the arm on another play is not a foul. The inconsistency is really bad for this league, especially with all these players you got coming in. You got Caitlyn leading it.
You'd think that after the chaos of last season, the league would have recruited some skilled officials. But here we are again with the same crew, turning every game into a debacle. Caitlyn Cunningham has had enough. She's done trying to argue calls. Instead, she's opting to take matters into her own hands. If the refs won't step up, she certainly will. Elbow Caitlyn Cunningham? Surprise. You've just stepped into a wrestling match. Throw a cheap screen her way? Congratulations, you're about to experience some hard hits. And the best part? Caitlyn is enjoying every moment of this newfound aggression. No longer hesitant in the face of contact, she's now the one initiating it. That little bump from a defender that used to disrupt her flow? Now she stands her ground like a brick wall, sending opponents stumbling as though they've collided with a freight train. She's been waiting for an opportunity for payback all year and won't be doing it gently. If referees refuse to enforce the rules, she'll take fate into her own hands. This creates a major dilemma for the WNBA. A duo prepared for a showdown, featuring Caitlyn Clark, who's been training like she's headed to the NFL Combine, and Sophie Cunningham, who's eager for confrontation. With officials behaving as if they're watching from the sidelines, the stage is set for an explosive season filled with drama and intensity. The sparks are about to fly.
They're going to get Caitlyn Clark hurt. And she's not going to be able to play. Can you imagine? It's unbelievable. It really is. I hope before the season starts next year, this gets straightened out. Or we'll be right back here cooking everybody all season long next.
The WNBA officials better be prepared this season because the Indiana Fever are here to make an impact. Caitlyn Clark has just entered the league, and she's already the hottest name since sliced bread. If the refs think they can derail her MVP journey and the Fever's championship ambitions, they might as well start updating their resumes. Last season was a mess, with officials making calls as if they had a stake in the outcome. Whistles were flying for no reason, questionable traveling calls popped up out of nowhere, and phantom fouls appeared like specters in a haunted house. It felt like there was a personal vendetta against excitement and fun on the court. But not this year. Oh no. Indiana is geared up to dominate, and Caitlyn Clark is stepping onto the court with a clear mission: to conquer everyone in her path. We all know the WNBA has a reputation for some of the most puzzling officiating in sports. Some of these refs likely couldn't officiate a game of tic-tac-toe without taking 10 minutes to review it. If Caitlyn drives to the basket and gets hit, there better be no silence. If she nails a deep three and is run over in the process, that whistle had better sound off like an alarm clock. The Fever are ready to shake things up, and they expect the officials to keep up.
Indiana Fever. They've re-signed Kelsey Mitchell. They keep Lexi Hall. Obviously, they got Caitlyn Clark, Aaliyah Boston. They bring in 3-time WNBA champion Natasha Howard. They bring in the 4th leading scorer in WNBA history, DeWanna Bonner. Indiana said we here. I don't know how else to...
The league thrives when Caitlyn Clark is dominating, and everyone knows it. So, to the WNBA refs, get it together, call the game fairly, and let Indiana show what they can do. Or prepare for an entire fan base to come after your jobs. Last season's officiating was a disaster, and the league is finally acknowledging that reality. This could mean real change, but we'll have to wait and see. One thing is certain: Caitlyn Clark's toughest opponent this season won't even be another player. It'll be the officials. They might find themselves on the bench this time. The refs really thought they could get away with questionable calls, but guess what? Everyone saw it, and everyone knows. Next season, they better come ready, because if Caitlyn gets so much as a bump without a call, the internet will come for them faster than a defender trying to keep up with her signature step-back three. The pressure is on, and the eyes of fans are watching closely. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. More videos are on screen now.